Hello and welcome to the 14th Cloudscape devlog. It's been a while, so let's just get into it. The first thing you might notice in this video compared to previous devlogs is that I've changed the lighting system in the game. So all of the clips in this video show the new lighting system in progress. I picked up the Smart Lighting 2D asset from the Unity store because I honestly just didn't want to spend a lot of time reinventing the wheel. This asset had glowing reviews and seemed to be a perfect fit for my game, so I purchased it and gave it a go, trying to implement it in place of my old lighting system. It took a couple of days, but I've ironed out a lot of the issues and I think it's starting to get to a good place. As you can see here, lights now provide a bit of additive effect to the scene, so it's not just purely cutting out shapes from a dark screen. Objects also now cast dynamic shadows based on the lighting in the scene. I think it's a nice addition to the game, and the really great part is that this new lighting system is actually more optimized than the simpler one that I had before. So I've seen noticeable performance and frame rate even with lots of shadows, lights, and objects on screen. There's still some work to do with it. I'm not happy with every object shadow being cast at the moment. Some look a bit odd, but it's not a big issue to correct those. I also wanted to implement day shadows for all objects, which means they will dynamically cast a shadow based on the sun's position throughout the day. This is separate from the shadows that get cast from other light sources. I think it will give a little bit more life to the environment. Moving on, I spent a bit of time adding the ability to equip attachments to certain types of items. The first item that makes use of this is the fishing rod. If you hold down the mouse button on the item, it will now pop up this little attachment panel. The panel icons represent the type of items that can be attached to this tool. In this case, it's bait and tackle. To attach an item, you simply pick it up and drop it on the item that allows the attachment. So here I can pick up the worm item and drop it on the wooden rod item. The quantity text for the rod item changes from white to a sort of pinkish gray color, and the quantity now represents the attachment item instead of the rod item. This works out because items you can attach stuff to are generally going to be tools, which have a stack size of 1 anyway. This means there's no real point in seeing the amount of fishing rods in a stack since the stack is always 1. Now if you click and hold on the fishing rod, the attachment panel displays and shows the attached worms as bait. I've also updated fishing to require bait in order to cast. As you can see here, trying to cast without bait will prompt you to attach some. Casting with bait works as intended. When a fish slips away or is caught, 1 bait is consumed from the fishing rod. Since bait is now required to fish, worms now also have a chance to drop from cutting tall grass or breaking rocks, just to give players more opportunities to get worms. Moving on, I've added animals to the game, albeit in a sort of roundabout way. The first animal implemented is the chicken, which comes in both adult and baby chick forms. When I first implemented the animals, they were sort of just moving around randomly, which was fine to start with. However, I quickly realized that wouldn't really work long term. In Cloudscape, animals will need to not only eat but also drink water each day. In order for them to eat and drink, they needed to find food and water sources and navigate to them. So I've also implemented a variation of A-star pathfinding which uses threading to provide some quick and performance-friendly pathfinding to various target destinations. The animals will now get hungry and thirsty each day and navigate to food and water sources if they are available. I added both feed troughs and water troughs to the game. These work pretty much exactly like other storage objects, only with a couple of new added limitations. Feed troughs will only accept feed, and water troughs will only accept water. You can't add any other items to these objects. They also have stack limits of 1, so if we take a look inside the feed trough, you can see there are 10 slots available for feed. Feed can normally stack up to 100 per slot, however I wanted to represent this differently in troughs. The reason for this is first I wanted to limit the troughs to a small amount of food and water initially, to make players need to tend to them more often. If I allowed even just 1 slot in the feed trough with a normal stack size, that would mean the player could add a full 100 feed stack and just sort of forget about feeding animals for quite a while. So this new limitation stuff just makes it so troughs work a little differently. The end result is you can drop up to 10 feed into the feed trough to fill it up. To add water to the water trough, you can use the watering can. However, I plan to add an option to use a bucket later to add more water per turn instead of 1 at a time. As you add and remove feed and water from the troughs, their quantity is also visually represented as being more or less full through the sprites. Later on, I plan to add some ways to increase the capacity of these troughs, or possibly even automate the process so larger silos of water and feed connected outside of the barn can directly replenish them. One interesting thing of note here is I added a new item that is just water. However, this item can't just be stored in your inventory or held in your hands. Water has to be stored inside of a container. In this case, it's the water trough, but as you can see, you can also move water directly between containers. In this case, you can move water into the bucket, which is stored as another type of attachment. I'm considering using this sort of system for the watering can along with possibly milk and other liquids. So for example, right now, the watering can just sort of has an arbitrary capacity and you can fill it with water or use it to remove water, but you can't access the water to, say, pour it into a bucket in your inventory or move it from your watering can to the trough through the inventory. So that's something I'm considering as well. I'll see if it works out or if it becomes too much of a hassle. It could be fun letting the player fill containers with various types of liquids though, so you could fill empty bottles with water, milk, oil, or whatever. Now that chickens are moving around, eating and drinking on their own, I needed a way for the player to be able to sort of corral animals to where they want them to be. Now obviously you can build a pen using fences if you want to contain the animals, but if one happened to get loose, you're going to want to be able to bring it back. So I added the animal bell, which you can purchase from Whimnim Island's ranch shop. When you use this bell, it will ring for a moment and attract animals within pretty much the range of the normal screen view. With this, you can get within a certain radius of an animal, ring the bell, and they will navigate to you if possible. I limited the range because before it was pretty much global to the entire island, which is funny at first, but I don't think most players want to call every single animal on their island to one point in space. In the future, I would like to add a bell that attaches to the barn, which you can ring similarly to the animal bell, but it might have a larger range. This bell will actually get animals to go in or out of the barn. This can be useful when you want to get your animals inside the barn quickly or outside to graze. Also, as you can see in this footage, animals will now randomly fall asleep throughout the day. I plan to have animals seek shelter indoors to sleep throughout the night, but haven't implemented that just yet. Along with that, I of course needed to add the most important feature, which is being able to pet your animals. The animation is placeholder for now, but you can now pet each animal once per day to raise their affection level slightly. When adult chickens are healthy and nourished, they will produce 1 egg each day. The size and quality of the egg will depend on how old the chicken is and how much affection it has for you. To keep track of all of your animals, I've updated the journal to include the animals page, where you can see a list of every animal you own along with some relevant information for each animal. You can quickly check to see which animals have received food and water and which you have petted recently. Moving on from animals for now, I've also done quite a bit of work to the first major island you will visit, which is Whimnim Island. Unfortunately, the whole island is very early stages of development, so I don't really want to show that off here just yet. I've also made some progress setting up the villagers along with getting concept sprites for each villager on the island, and getting them placed on the island where you can talk with them or buy things from them. I'll touch more on that in a future video. I've also recently added the shipping bin object to the game. This works sort of similar to shipping bins in other farming games of the genre, however it has a few differences. First off, you can place your bin anywhere you'd like. The bin works just like other storage containers, so you can open it to interact with it from your inventory, allowing you to drag and drop items inside. Or you can simply drop items directly into the bin. The standard bin starts with 12 slots of storage, however there will be larger bins you can purchase. On top of that, you can also just buy additional bins and place them wherever, and all of your bins will have their items collected. Items you place in shipping bins will be collected at 8 AM each day. I won't go into details on how exactly that will be done, but here you can see that once it turns 8 AM, the bin will be emptied and left open, with a receipt pinned inside the lid. When the player interacts with this receipt, they will receive all of the money for their sold items, and the receipt will be added to the player's journal for later viewing. If we take a look at the journal, we can see our past shipments. You can sort these by date, recipient, and profit. Clicking on one will expand the receipt to show all items sold in that shipment. Here you can see the breakdown of exactly what was sold and for how much. Let me know in the comments if you want this receipt UI to appear when you collect the receipt, or if you like how it is now, where you're just notified that you have a new receipt you can check out later. While we're looking in the journal, I've also started putting together the collections page. Here you can pick various categories to see what items you've discovered and collected. I plan to add a few more useful features to this page, but that will happen later on in development. With the new lighting system, I also wanted to make improvements to other aspects of the environment, so I've been messing with the water a bit more. I've now added distortions to the water reflections so they feel more like they are in the water and not just a mirror. I'm racking my brain with ways to improve the ocean's appearance overall. I would really like to get some nice waves rolling in, but they need to work well and not impact performance too heavily. For now, it's sort of on the wish list of things I'd like to get around to adding at some point down the road. That's all for this devlog. There was a lot of progress made on various things, mainly to the villagers. They have their own pathfinding and events-based chatting and routine system that I've been implementing, but I'm going to save that for a future devlog as it's not quite finished. I've also worked a bit on the shop interface and setting up various shops, more of that to come in the future. That wraps it up for this video. I hope everyone out there watching this video is doing well. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Links in the description if you'd like to wishlist the game on Steam, follow along on Twitter, chat on Discord, or pre-order the game and physical Cloudscape merchandise through Backerkit. As always, thanks for watching.